There we go. Roll. What do you think? Shalom, Israel. We are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out on 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yahana. And since 1969, we've been teaching the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We are the true Jews of the Bible. We are God's chosen people. I am Priest and Officer Sha'afwan, having the honor of holding the class down today for Priest and Officer 5000 Hazahah. Joining me today in the class is Captain 13,000 Shama Wa'ala. Let's clap it up for the Most High. So today's class will be covering the biblical and Hebrew names of nations. We're going to start off first going through the alphabet in the ancient and the modern Hebrew. So you become familiar with the alphabet. And then from there, we're going to progress to several of the names of the nations. And then from there, we'll actually get into reading the books, chapters, and verses where these nations and names first starting to appear. So let me just check something here. Can we see, sir, what? The comments of the people here in the comments? Yeah, on the side. Hey, they are there. Yeah. Okay, so hello, young man Bruce. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. So English is read and written from left to right, and we're pretty much accustomed to that, as that was our native language growing up. And there's 26 characters in the English alphabet. In the Hebrew alphabet, it's written from right to left, and there's 22 characters. So the origin of writing from left to right can be traced back to the ancient Greeks, who, after initially writing from right to left, like the Phoenicians, eventually transitioned to a left to right script. That's according to Google AI. And what I'm going to show you now is this book here, Biblical Hebrew, a text and workbook by Bonnie Pedrati Cattell, Vicky Hoffer, and Rebecca Apps Wright. Now, this book is from Yale University. Okay, so we're not just making this up. This is from Yale, very important school. And you can see here on page 3, try to get around to this, that the Hebrew alphabet is the oldest in the world, still in use today. Our own alphabet is a descendant of it by a circuitous route. The text of the Hebrew Bible we use today reflects several periods of development. Originally, only the consonants were used. By the time of the Israelite kingdoms, and consonants were used to indicate certain vowels. So that means there were no vowels in the original language, and everything was consonants. Now, when you come to class, make sure you pick up one of these. This is the Lashawan Kodash. It's the Holy Tongue, and it shows the alphabet. On the top is the ancient. In the middle here is the modern. Down below is just someone's handwriting version of it. So pick yourself up one of these, but we're going to do this on the board because I find when I very first learned just seeing the characters for the first time, it makes it a little bit, it's a little bit hard to just understand just looking at the sheet, but it helps that you actually physically see the drawing of the characters. So I'm going to put the extra time into drawing the physical characters so you can see how that works. Now, you can draw them any way you like, but I'm just going to draw it the way that's most comfortable to me, that's how I learned it. So as there were 22 letters, I was thinking, how can I learn this or memorize this? Because eventually, in order to read the Hebrew, you have to actually have all these characters memorized with their sounds. So what I did, I broke it into a little song. So just like we learned the English alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, pause, H, I, J, K, pause, L, M, N, O, P, pause, Q, R, S, pause, T, U, V, pause, W, X, pause, Y, and Z. So I learned that in grade school. Now I learn my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me? That was a way of how I learned the alphabet in school. So what I'm going to teach you now is the Hebrew alphabet in a song. And what I did, I broke down the 22 letters into 5 sets. So the first set, and I like to count on my fingers, so it's easy for me to recall. So it's A, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha. Wa, Za, Ka, Ta, Ya. Ka, La, Ma, Na, Sa. I, Pa, Ta, Za. Ta, Za is one character, but it has 2 syllables. And then Kwa, Ra, Sha, Da. So that's how I learned it, and I broke it down into that sequence. So I'm going to draw it on the board. Hello, Princess Nazam Ana Jewel. Thank you for joining us. So first, let's go by the sounds. And we're going to do this part in English. A, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha. Since we all know English. Wa, Za, Ka, Ta, Ya. Ka, La, Ma, Na, Sa. I, Pa, Ta, Za. Kwa, Ra, Sha, and Tha. So that's the sounds in English. And this is what I just did. I broke it down into this. And you're going to see that there's first 5 characters and there's 5 syllables. Then there's another 5 characters and there's another 5 syllables. Then you're going to see there's another 5 characters and another 5 syllables. Then you're going to see there's 3 characters, but it actually has 4 syllables. Taza. It's 1 character, but it sounds like 2 syllables. And then you have 4 characters with 4 syllables. So, as you learn the song, I learned it in sets. I learned this line first, I learned this line next, then I learned this line next, then I learned this line next, then I learned this line next. It's important you just get this part first, that you get the sounds with the syllables, because when we're going to do the ancient and the modern of the Hebrew, those are symbols that initially I was not familiar with, and I had to learn over time. But if you just get the sounds right, and you're learning your ABCs, you can do this. Abba gada ha, waza kataya, kalamanasa, ipa taza, kwarashata. Just you have to be able to do that. So at least you know the sounds. We're not even looking at symbols yet, but you're learning the actual sounds. So, now that we have the sounds, let's start drawing the characters. You have the sheet here. Pull it out if it'll help you if you have one on you. If not, I'm going to draw the characters on the board so you can see it. So this is now in the ancient. Ah. Ba. Ga. Da. Ha. Wa. Za. Ha. Ta. Ya. Ka. La. Ma. Na. Sa. I. Ha. Taza. Qua. Ra. Sha. You ain't went to school? Da. Did you leave? Yeah. She's here. Next, we're going to go into the modern Hebrew. That's fine. Okay. All right, do this in the red marker so you can see the difference. So we have the ah, and you have the ba, and you have the ga, then you have the da, and then you have the ha. Now, if you noticed how the da is, it's like a line across and like an S kind of shape. Ha starts the exact same way, but then you add another squiggly S sign. But there's a space in between here, so it's not actually connected. So this is very important to see these subtleties, the ones in the red that I'm doing, because when you're learning the modern Hebrew, it looks very, very similar to these characters. So by doing it, how I'm showing you, I'm going to show you the little differences. Now we have our wa. Then we have our za. Then we have the ka. Starts off just like the da, line across, the S down, or the squiggly. Now you do another S down or squiggly. And it's connected. So unlike the ha, there's a space. This one here, there's no space. So like when you're looking on this, especially like in the Tanakh and all that, it's very small. So it's kind of hard to see that. So, you know, you'll see that's over time. Like what I do is like I blow up my phone like whenever I read the Hebrew like on a Sabbath service. I read it from there just because it's bigger and I can see it easier. So now we have the ta. Then we have the ya. Now when we have the ka, there's actually two versions of this. First version just looks like the C, okay? But then there's a secondary character, and this appears at the end of the word. So what happens, if you see the ka throughout a word, the beginning, middle, anywhere else, you use this version. But if it's the last letter of the word in the modern, they substitute it with a different character. It's totally confusing. Why do you need two characters for the same sound? But that's how the modern is. So they created extra characters. And you can see that there's 5 of these that are secondary characters that we use at the end of the word. Now we have the, let's see, ka, la. So the la be like this. Then you have the ma. Now the ma has 2 different characters too. So you have the one that's kind of curved, and there's an open space. Then there's a squiggly at top. And then there's another one, which is more squarish, but it's connected. It has the lip over. So this is the secondary character when it appears at the end of a word. The na also has 2 characters. First, it's drawn just like this wa here. Initially, it looks like that. Then you add a line across. And then, if it's at the end of the word, it's also shorter than the ka. You see how extended this is? You see it's shorter than the ka, and it's also long. This is also long. So whenever you see this at the end of the word and you see a real long character, that's because it's at the end of the word and it's using the secondary characters. We have the sa, almost looks like a circle. It's got a lip at the end. So it's got a little lip on the end. And you have the I, which is almost like a Y. I. And you have the pa, which has two characters as well. So you have one circular, and then you have one that goes down. Okay? And that's the secondary character. And then you have the taza. It's a little bit difficult to draw. It's like that. And then there's a longer one that appears at the end of the word. So those are the secondary characters. And then we have wa, ra, sha, and then tha. I don't like my qua. Do that one good. Trying to avoid the little part in the wall there. So this will be a good point to take a screenshot of this. I'm going to take one myself.
Lose weight, man. Hebrew Academy, man.
I lost 20 pounds, sir, over the last month. So all of a sudden, my thing's getting better.
You already decided, yeah. Getting that workout on.
Guess it's a good problem to have. My pants size is on the loose too. There we go. All right. So let me take a shot of this. Is there any questions? You can post them in the chat. I'm going to take a picture of this here myself. So I'll post these online on Facebook so you actually have a clear picture. Sometimes your screenshot is a little bit difficult on the computer. But I'll post these on my Facebook page so you can see good things nice and clear. All right. So it doesn't seem like there's any questions yet. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is now we're going to get into the biblical names and nations. Let me spray this down because I know when you view this online, seeing all those extra marks makes it a little bit difficult to read. So I take the extra time to give you a nice clean board after each one of these sessions. And I'll let you know when it's a good time to take a picture. So you can take that at the end. But I'll post these all online on my Facebook page after these two. Okay. All right. Good. let's get into biblical and Hebrew names. Okay. So we're going to cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 of them. So we're going to do the ancient and the modern Hebrew translation. Well, let's stick with the English verse, since we all know English. Okay. Now let's just put who they are. So we got Israel. We got Edom. We have Moab. We have Ammon. We have Ishmael. We have Elam. We have Japheth. We have Ham. We have Mizraim. We have Canaan. We have Cush. And we have Put. So this is who we're going to cover today. Now, who is Israel? Israel are the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Okay. We have Edom, which is the so-called white man. We have Moab. That's the Chinese. We have Ammon. That would be the Japanese. We have Ishmael, which are the Arabs. We have Elam, which are the East Indians. We have Japheth, which are the Polynesians.
Be right back. Check on my car.
Okay. The Eskimos. And the native Australians. We have Ham, which are the Africans. We have Mizraim, which are the Egyptians. We have Canaan, which are the South Africans. We have Cush, which are the Ethiopians. And we have Phut, which are the Libyans. So when you read the Bible, you come across these names, now you know who they actually are. Now, as we translate these, names have meanings in Hebrew, which is very, very interesting. So names mean things. So for Israel, that means yeah, I can fit it in here. I'll put this in blue underneath. That should work. Yeah, that should work. So Israel be he is the prince of power. Okay, so that's what the name Israel actually means. Edom actually stands for red. So, you know, Esau, Edom, he was the red man. So, all white man. You have Moab. That stands for a mother and father. Ammon. Those are the Japanese. That means people of itself. Ishmael, which are the Arabs, stands for he, here, God. Elam is actually hideous. Get out of here. That makes sense. Japhet stands for expand. Ham, the Africans, is actually hot. Mizraim, the Egyptians, is actually bondage. Canaan, the South Africans, actually humbled. Now, these are actually a different language, so we don't have a direct Hebrew translation. I'm just going to put different language just so you know that it is a different language. That
Is a Hebrew word? What? I don't understand. Kush is kawash, right?
it's Kawash, but it was a different language. This is how Officer Hazahab explained it. It's just like a different language. He didn't have an exact translation because of how it was. We know it's Kawash and this is Wat, but he didn't know an actual direct translation. So what we just determined is that we're just going to write different language. So we don't have a direct Hebrew translation of this. Maybe in the future, if he comes up with something, but as of now, he didn't have a direct translation of this. So this will be a good point to take a screenshot and a picture of this. I'm going to do so as well. Okay. Let's see if there's any questions at all. So I'm going to erase this now. So keep them up there. And turn this off over here. Now we're going to get into the Hebrew. Now that we went through the English of what they are, we're going to get into the Hebrew aspects of this. This is where all the fun begins. Now that we're getting out of English. Okay. So, Israel. It's actually Yashar Allah. So it's Yashar Allah. Write this first into English, then we'll translate it. Yashar Allah. Now, how it's pronounced, that's connected there. So when we draw it in the ancient, we have connectors, which tells us how to actually pronounce it. Really convenient. But essentially, you have a Ya, you have a Sha, you have a Ra, you have an Ah, and a La. You got 5 characters here. The Shar is combined, so it's Ya, Shar, Allah. Now, in the ancient, give enough space here. It's ya, shar. That's the sha. Then you have the ra. And then you have the ah. Then you have the la. So it's ya, sha, ra, ah, la. But this is connected and the pronunciation, so we connect them. So this will be shar. And when we do the single sounds, it's ya, there's a shar, there's an ah, and la. So these connectors really make it helpful in the pronunciation. You don't see this in the modern, so it's very difficult to see how the pronunciation is in the modern. So in modern, it's this, ya, sha, ra, ah, la. So it's ya, shar, ah, la. But there's no connectors in this modern, so that's why it's difficult to see pronunciations. The ancient, it really specifies each syllable, how it's pronounced. Now we have Edom, which is Adawam. A, da, wam. And the wam is connected. Okay. Let's draw the a, then the da, then the wa, and then the ma, a, da, wam. So now let's add the connectors so you can see it clearly. A, da, wam. So that's how you pronounce Edom. A, da, wam. In the modern, a, da, wa, and then the ma. Now remember, this appears at the end of the word, so we're using the secondary character, adawam, for Edom. Next we have is Moab. So that's ma, wa, a, ba. There's no connectors in any of those. So it's ma, wa, a, ba. If you recognize Abba, that's father. So this was of mother and father. So you can actually see where the names actually have their meanings and where it comes from. So let's draw this one out. Ma, wa, a, and ba. Ma, wa, aba. In the modern, ma, this is the M again, but notice how it's different than this one here, because that's also the M, but this appears at the end of the word, so that's the secondary character. Here, it's at the beginning of the word, So we're using the first character. So we have ma, wa, a, ba. Ma, wa, a, ba. That's Moab. The reason why we're going over the ancient and the modern is that we don't have an ancient text of the Bible. Everything was preserved in the modern. So this is why you need to know both of these languages. So in order to read, you have to be able to translate this from the modern. So the interesting thing is that in our first exercise, when we just wrote the alphabet, we just stuck to the English and the sounds. So that's why when you're just sticking to the English and the sounds and you have that memorized, and you know the individual sounds of the characters, translating it to the ancient or the modern is very simple, actually. You know, again, this sheet really lays it out easily for you. So how to do that. Next we have is Ammon, which is I, Ma, Wan. And the Wan is connected. I'm a Wan. So the I, I forgot to give you connectors up above for Moab. Draw them in. Ma, Wa, A. So you know each one of these are singular. Okay. Now let's do I, Ma, Wan. So we have the I, Ma, Wa, and then Na. So this will be I, Ma, Wan. These two are connected. Give me the Wan. I'm a Wan. And in the modern, I, now we're going to do the Ma again. Now this is in the middle of the word. We're going to use this Ma right here. Okay, remember, that Ma is at the end of the word, that's squared. This one that's open could be at the beginning or in the middle of the word. So that's the Ma, I, Ma, Wan. Throw the Wa, and then the N, which is a secondary character, appears at the end of the word. I'm exaggerating this on purpose so you can really see it, is that it's extended. Okay, so you know this character is longer than all the other characters that you see in the word. So that's how you know you're also at the end of the word and you're using the secondary character. I'm a one. Now we have Ishmael. So this is Ya, Sha, My, and My is connected. You have a Ma and an I is connected. And then you have Ah and La. Yashamai Allah. And you have a Ma and an I connected in that pronunciation. Okay, let's draw out this one here. down. A lot of characters for that one. So let's see. Do the ya. Then the sha. And then the ma. And then the I. And the ah. And the la. Ya, sha, my, ah, la. So you have the ma and the I is connected. Ya, sha, my, Allah. And in the modern, ya, sha, my, we're using the first M, the I, Allah. Allah. Ya, sha, my, Allah. Next we have Elam, which is I, Ya, Lam. And the Lam is connected. I, Ya, Lam. Let's draw the I, Ya, the La, and the Ma. I, Ya, Lam. These two are connected, these last two letters. I, Ya, Lam. And do it in the modern. Get I, Ya, La, and the Ma, which is the secondary character, which is the square one that's closed. It appears at the end of the word. It appears at the end of the word. Use the secondary. Ayalam. Any questions yet? No questions. Okay. If there's any questions you have, just please add them to the chat. I'll do the best I can to answer them. Japhet is Ya Path. And the path is connected. So you have Ya, Pa, and the Tha. So the Ya, Path. These two are connected. And modern, the Ya, Pa, and the Tha. Yapath. Next we have Ham, which is come. And this is all connected. So this is a ma connected, which is then pronounced as come. Notice when I'm saying this letter, as if I have something in my throat. I'm not saying ha. That's a different character. I'm saying ha, like Captain Ha. That's the character. So cha, remember, this is a fence. Then you have the ma. And they're joined. Ha. In modern, you have the ka. This is the closed one. You see there's no gap in between there? That's the ka. Once again, we have the M, which is at the end of the word. And it's closed. Come. Now you have Mizrahyam. This is Ma Tazar Yam. So it's a Ma, Tazah, it's connected to a Ra, so it will be Tazar, and then Yam. And the Yam is connected. You have a Ya and a Ma connected. So it's Ma Tazar Yam. So we have the Ma, Tazah, the Ra, the Ya, and the Ma. So we have Ma, Tazar, connecting these two, and the Yam are connected. Ma, Tazar. In the modern, it's Ma, Tazah, Ra, Ya, Ma. Ma, Tazar, Yam. Next we have is Canaan, which is pronounced K, Na, Ain. Kana Ain. This is an I and a Na that's connected. Ka, Na, Ain. So that's a Ka, this is a Ka. Two different characters, two different sounds. So the Ka looks like a backwards K circle. That's your Ka, half circle. Looks like a K flipped around. Ka, Na, Ein. I is the circle. So this will be Ka, Na, Ein. Kana Ein. And in the modern, Ka, Na, Ein. Now this N appears at the end of the word, so you'll see it's also longer than the other characters. Just like you see up here, and I'm one. At the end of the word, so we're using a secondary character at the end. Now we have Kush, which is pronounced Kawash. Now this is a Wa and a Sha connected. So now let's write the Ka. We have right above, just as it came. Just a Ka again. Ka, Wa, and then the Sha. So this will be Kawash. These are connected. Kawash. In the modern, Kawash. Kawash. And the last one, foot, which is Pawat. Pawat. And these two characters are connected. It's wa and ta. So, pa. Then we have a wa. Then we have a ta. Pa, wat. These two are connected. Pa, wa, ta. Pawat. And there we go. Those are the biblical and Hebrew names of nations. This will be a good point to take a screenshot and a picture of this. I'm going to do the same too. Okay. Any questions at all? Nope, no questions at all. Okay, great. Now what I want to teach you is where to actually find these names in the Bible. Where do they come up? At least the first time. At least the first reference to them. Now, in the Bible, you know, names change. So, for example, Israel wasn't originally called Israel. His name was Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob was renamed to Israel. So I'll first show you where Jacob first appears. And that will be in Genesis 25. Back. I can give you the verse itself. Genesis 25, verse 26. Okay, this is where you're going to see Jacob. And we're going to go over this next. That's the next part of this class. We're actually go into the Hebrew and the Bible so you can see it for yourself. This is where it's at. Next, you're going to see the word Israel. And you can see that in Genesis 35 and 10. Okay. Then you have Edom, which you'll see Genesis 25 and in verse 25. And you also see it in Genesis 25 and 30. Moab appears in Genesis 19 and in verse 27. Ammon is in Genesis 19 and verse 38. Ishmael is in Genesis 16 and verse 11. Elam, Genesis 10, verse 22. Japheth, Genesis 10, verse 1. Ham also can be seen in Genesis 10, verse 1. Mizraim in Genesis 10, verse 6. Canaan is also Genesis 10, verse 6. Cush is also in Genesis 10, verse 6. And Foot is also in Genesis 10, verse 6. So this will be a good point to take a screenshot of this. So you can look at this on your own time, but we're going to go into this right now so you can see this yourself. So you see the Hebrew coming alive of where this came from. I'm going to take a picture as well. Any questions? No questions? Okay. So let's go look this up now. Now we're going to show this to you on screen. All right, so Genesis 25, verse 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. So here is where you're now seeing Jacob for the first time. Now let's go to the Hebrew. And let's read Hebrew here. So this is Genesis 25, verse 26. And let's find Jacob. Here it is down here. Yah-I-Kwa. There's Jacob. So you can see it right there in the Hebrew. Genesis 25, verse 26. Now, let's go to Genesis 35 and 10. And God said unto him, Thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. So this is where you're seeing now his name change. So let's look in the interlinear. Okay. And just so you know, this is the BibleHub.com. This is where I read from during the Sabbath service. Okay, this is what I'm reading from on my phone just because I can blow it up on my phone. So when you go to BibleHub.com, you click on Interlin. When you go to the Interlin, you are reading the interlinear, which is you're now seeing the modern Hebrew, but at the same time, it helps give you a definition, kind of, well, this is the Jewish man's tongue. So you could ignore all these dots around it and these, these hyphens and dots and dashes. Just ignore all that and just look at the characters themselves that's on your sheet. Okay? But here we're going to look for Israel. And here's Israel right here. It's Yah, Shah, Ra, Allah. Yah, Shar, Allah. Okay? So that's he is the Yah, Shar is the prince, Allah is power. He, prince, power. That's what Israel stands for. Next, we're going to go to, let's look at Genesis 25, verse 25. And here, and the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So remember, Esau, let me get the screen up here. I'm going to go into the interlinear so you can see that. Edom was the white man, and it means red. So Genesis 25, verse 25. And you'll see there's Esau. And you'll see first came out red. That's where he says Rudy is. But notice what it is. It's Da, Ma, Wa, Na, Ya, but Adam. So you can see how they came up with this. Here's a better verse, though, because that's Esau. And Esau was changed to Edom. So we're going to go to that verse now, 25, verse 30. And you'll see there's Esau. And then Edom. That's down here. A, da, wa, ma. Arawam. So that's where Edom is at. Shalom, Leonard Jr., thank you for joining us. We're going over the verses of the biblical and Hebrew names of nations so you can see it in both the English and the Hebrew. Next, we're going to go to Moab, and that was in Genesis 19, verse 37. So Genesis 19, verse 37. And Genesis 19:37 reads, "And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day." So let's look for this now in the Hebrew. So we're going to go to Genesis 19, verse 37. And you can see Moab right here. Ma, wa, a, ba. Mawa, abba. And you also see when it says Moabites over here, it's the exact same word. Ma, wa, a, and ba. And that's where Moab's at. Next, we're going to go to Ammon. And that would be Genesis 19, verse 38. So that's the next verse here. And it says, "And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Benamai. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day." So there's his name. Let's look for this in now the Hebrew. And you can see here is Ammon. And it's I, Ma, one. Highlighting it right now, so yeah, you can see, you don't see my mouse pointer, it doesn't see that. But you can see when I highlight it. So I'm going to highlight it so you can see it. And you can see there's Ammon's name in the Hebrew. Next, we're going to go to Ishmael. And Ishmael is in Genesis 16, verse 11. "And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction." Okay, so let's go into the interlinear here to Genesis 16, verse 11. And you'll see Ishmael. Highlighted it there. So you can say it says Ya, Sha, Ma, I, Ah, and La. It's connected, the Ma and the I. So it's Yasha, my Allah. But that's where the name appears the Hebrew. Blow it up big so you can see it better. There you go. So you see it? Ya, Sha, Ma, I, A, La. All right, that's in Genesis 16 and 11. Now let's look up Elam. So Elam is in Genesis 10, verse 22. So you see the children of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. So there's Elam right there. Let's go look it in the Hebrew. Go back to our interlinear. So Genesis 10, verse 22. And there's Elam.
I love that.
And you have an I, Ya, La, and a Ma. Ayalam. So there's Elam in Genesis 10, verse 22. Now let's look for Japheth, which is in Genesis 10, verse 1. It says, now these are the generations of the son of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. So let's go to our interlinear. Genesis 10, verse 1. And you will see Japheth. So now, Japheth, you can see I highlighted it. It's Yapath, but there's a Wah in front of this. That's what the and is. So this is actually saying and Japheth, or and Yapath. So it's Wah, Ya, Pa, and Th. Why Yapath? So that means and Japheth. And you can also see Ham in the same verse, which is right next to it. I just highlighted it. And that's Ham. So you have a Ha, then you have a Ma. It's connected. It's pronounced Ham. And you can see that also in the same verse. Next, we're going to go to the last verse, and it'll contain the last three names. Genesis 10, verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. So here we have Mizraim, Canaan, Cush, and Phut, all in the same line. So now let's go to our interlinear and see how it is in Hebrew. So here we have Ham, which is come. You have a ka and a ma. Here we have kush, which is kawash. So you have a ka, a wa, and a sha. So it's kawash. Then you have wa, matazarium, which is Mizraim. And the wa is an and. So it's saying and matazarium. And then we have here and put or and foot. You'll notice there's a wa in front of it again. So it's wa hawat. But his actual name is right here. Hawat. This part is just the and. The first character is the and. And then hawat is his actual name right there. And then you have and Canaan. So again, here's the and. You have the wa. And then Canaan's name. Kana Aina. Kana'ain. So it's saying wa Kana'ain. And that's where you have Canaan. Great. So now we went through all of these here, all these verses. You see the actual names in the Hebrew, where they are in the Bible. And you know the pronunciation. We went over spelling in both the ancient Hebrew and the modern Hebrew. Are there any questions at all? Please add them to the chat. Okay. Doesn't look like there's any questions. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up for this class. I am Priest and Officer Sha'athwan, holding the class down with the honor for Officer 5000 Hazahah. And we're getting ready to go to the Passover. You'll see in the corner of the screen to pay your passport fee. It's $200. It covers all the events from April 9th through April 14th. So make sure you pay your Passover fee. And with that, we are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out on 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohanna. And since 1969, we've been teaching the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We are the true Jews of the Bible.
Salute.
We're going to give one courtesy salute. Imajim, which means to stand. Men of Israel. Imajim Shabbat. Imajim. Barak. Yahalom Hashem Yahushai Barakatham. Yad Yamatah, which means hands down.
Sisters.
Sar, which means turn and face the sisters. Men of Israel, we're going to give one courtesy salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, Imajim Shabbat. Imajim. Barak. Yahal Shamar Al-Fan Ba'Hashem Yahushai. Yad Yamatah. Class dismissed.